Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the 79th AGM of SCVO. My name is Maureen McGinn, and I have the pleasure to be SCVO's Honorary President. Firstly, though, a few points of housekeeping. This AGM is being recorded, which captures the chat as well as the speaker's contributions. Now, it will be shared on the SCVO website and YouTube channels after the event. You should feel free to use the chat function. And if you would like to ask a question, please use the Q&A function. You can support or upvote questions by liking them in the Q&A function, and I'll open the floor for questions at the end of the formal business. Voting on our AGM resolutions and trustee elections happens online and in advance. So the voting closed on the 30th of November, and I'll update you on the results later in this session. SCVO's annual review for 2021-2022 has been published on the website, and we're going to share the link here in the chat and also on social media. And I encourage you all to have a look. As you can see, I'm here today with the speakers at Mansfield Queer Centre, and we're joined by some board members as well. But it's also great to have so many of you join us. And this is the third time that we've actually delivered the AGM through a webinar format. SCVO has members the length and breadth of the country, and for that reason, an online AGM is so much more inclusive, and it allows more of you to join than would be possible otherwise. Today we are expecting to welcome members from Western Lochhew to Hoyk, Argyll and Bute, Angus and Irvine, to name but a few places. Of course, we also love the opportunity for informal chats with members, and we all thoroughly enjoyed the chance to return to an on-person gathering, an on-person meeting at the gathering in June. I had the privilege to be there for some of the time, and it was just great to feel the buzz and the activity and the connectedness again as people came together after such a long gap. We're in the process of planning the next gathering and look forward to sharing the date and details with you early in the new year. Now, today, we're going to be looking back at the year between April 2021 and March 2022, a time of yet more challenge and change. And we're also, of course, going to have a look at the year we're currently in and what's happening at SCVO. For all of us, COVID is still very much present, and in the past year we were experiencing restrictions, and indeed for some people life is still restricted. At SCVO we've been learning how to do blended working well, with staff working between home and office, and the people that share our buildings are doing the same. It's been good to meet up with people in person, but it's also valuable to have the flexibility to work remotely and to be able to work online without the pressures of travel. As is very evident to us all, the voluntary sector has now been hit by rising costs and even more uncertainty, and SCVO is very focused on helping our members and the wider sector navigate these dreadful current storms. The sector is generally known to be resilient and positive, but I know that this is truly being tested to the limit just now. Whatever your role, I'd like to say thank you for what you do, the great work. Scotland would be a poorer place without its voluntary organisations and people like you. Before we move into the body of the meeting, I'd also like to say thank you on behalf of SCVO to all the people who have helped us to succeed by funding our core work and our projects. Thank you to everyone who supports our activities. In a moment, you'll see a short film giving you a glimpse about SCVO's work over the last year and hear about the impact of that from some of our members.
This year at SCVO, we've worked hard for our members, customers and the broader sector so that they can support their communities and achieve their ambitions. We've talked to organisations across Scotland who are benefiting from everything SCVO offers, including our membership package, training opportunities and services including IT, workspace and payroll. Feedback has been overwhelmingly positive, and we want to share some with you.
My name is Stephanie Quigley. I am the Service Manager with Cancer Support Scotland. Cancer Support Scotland have been supporting the wellbeing of people affected by cancer for over 40 years now, providing free counselling, support groups, workshops, complementary therapies and befriending. Cancer Support Scotland are also a very proud member of the SCVO. Being part of a nationally recognised organisation whose mission is to support, promote and develop a confident, sustainable voluntary sector attracted Cancer Support Scotland to join. Additionally, SCVO's values resonate with the values of Cancer Support Scotland, striving to deliver daily a responsive, supportive and committed service. What we find most valuable about our membership is that all staff here at Cancer Support Scotland take advantage of the wonderful training opportunities provided through SCVO. The courses, webinars and events offered are wonderful ways of supporting the team and ensuring that they feel confident in their role with the charity and in the third sector.
So we're a charity serving Falkirk District. We provide 8 different types of mental health services, and we have, just now we've got 35 staff. We've grown a little bit since you guys came on board. SCVO came on board with us during the pandemic, so we were already doing a lot of working from home, but the hybrid model was something that works really well for us because we're quite cramped for office space. And so actually it's something we were keen to continue to be able to do. So we have a mixture of ways of working. So we work with clients in person, but we also have the option to do online, which is really great for a lot of people. It suits them. So we're very much a hybrid model. So having a really up to speed sort of IT system was really important for us. Understanding the third sector obviously is just brilliant, and that's something that other organisations can't really offer, and that just sort of opens up a whole other world of understanding, and also it means SCVO understand all those opportunities that we can tap into in terms of what we can get well discounted and all that kind of stuff, and the charity licensing, and also getting our equipment through the procurement scheme, all that kind of stuff. So yeah, SCVO sort of understands that, and they've been really realistic with us about things, and I feel confident that because they've got that wider knowledge, they're always accessing the kind of best stuff that we can within our own budgets. So you know, we've got a really great system running now. It's excellent. Yeah.
So thank you to members and customers who took the time to contribute towards the making of the film. Now we move on to the formal business of the day, and item 2 is the minutes of the previous meeting. So we're being asked to approve as a correct record the minutes of the 78th Annual General Meeting held on Tuesday the 7th of December 2021 via video link. And I can confirm that the result of the voting is that the minutes of the 78th AGM are approved. Our next item of business is the Convener and Chief Executive report. So I'm going to start by inviting Andrew Burns, SCVO Convener, to share his reflections on the past year. Over to you, Andrew.
Thanks very much, Maureen, and good afternoon, everybody. As Maureen said, it's really great to see so many people joining us from a range of organisations right across Scotland. And whilst online meetings obviously have some drawbacks, there is a real benefit in enabling more people to join in. So thank you for taking the time to be with us this afternoon. I'm going to speak about the highlights and the challenges in the year covered in our annual report. As Maureen said, that's from the 1st of April 21 to the 31st of March 2022. So it is quite some time ago now. I would really encourage you all to have a look at the full document, which is available online on the SCVO website, scvo.org.uk. And during that time, obviously, we were all still dealing with the impact of the coronavirus pandemic, not just on SCVO, but on the wider voluntary sector and on society more generally. And we were beginning to see the start of rising inflation during that period, just the beginning of the still ongoing war in Ukraine, and some really quite political volatility, particularly at a UK level. But I'm pleased to say that amidst it all, SCVO has continued to deliver a really wide range of services and activities, and our membership has grown significantly. And I'll say a little bit more about that as I go through the presentation. This was due, 2021-22, this was due to be the final year of delivery against our current strategic plan. But because of the coronavirus pandemic, the SCVO board extended the current plan to the 31st of March 2023, so we extended it for one more year. And whilst the pandemic, particularly the various lockdowns, meant that we've had to do things differently, we have also still made lots of progress on the aims that were set out in the original strategic plan. And we're aiming, the board met earlier on this afternoon actually to discuss this in more detail, but we are definitely aiming to launch a new refreshed strategic plan in late March, early April 2023. And throughout all of this, our aims are absolutely still to support, to promote and to develop the sector, whatever is happening in the external environment. And like many organisations, we have sort of embraced a blended working model, and although it's not always been easy, we are now a much more digital, agile and resilient organisation. I'm particularly pleased to say that we've been awarded this year Gold Investors in People status, and we're in the top 10 flexible employers. Along with all my fellow trustees, I really do appreciate the work of all the staff, and it's great to see the learning from the last couple of challenging years, to say the least, being used to continually improve our offer to members and the wider sector. So I really am, as convener, along with the board, particularly proud of that Gold Investor in People status. In April 2021, as many of you will know, and some of you will be here because of this, we launched a new membership package. We now have 3 categories of membership based on an organisation's income, and a supporter package for organisations and individuals who don't qualify for membership but want to be a part of what we do. And as a result of that refreshed offer, membership offer, I'm absolutely delighted to say that 687 new organisations have joined SCVO in the year I'm talking about, 2021-22, and that's expanded their overall membership up until the end of March 22 to 2,942 organisations. And I'm even more delighted to say that that's continuing to rise at a relatively rapid rate. And the board meeting I mentioned that we had earlier on noted that as of today, we've actually got, sitting here in December 2022, over 3,300 organisations are either members or supporters of SCVO. And that really is a fantastic transformation from 3 or 4 years ago. We've continued to play a significant role in influencing both the Scottish Government, the UK Government and others to make sure the voice of the voluntary sector is heard in policy making and legislation. And increasingly we do that together with partners like the Third Sector Interfaces and our sister organisations in England, Wales and Northern Ireland. And SCVO is also playing an important part in tackling digital inclusion in partnership with the Scottish Government, councils and literally hundreds of voluntary organisations. Some of you will be on the call this afternoon through the Connecting Scotland programme and other initiatives. And this has included direct support to the numerous Ukrainian refugees that are here in Scotland. And the Connecting Scotland programme, as you can see from the slide that's on the screen now, has reached its target of 60,000 devices delivered by the end of 2021, quite a phenomenal achievement. And we supported over 1,000 organisations and delivered nearly 5,000 projects to help digitally excluded households. And I'll take a bit of time now in the next maybe 4 or 5 slides just to outline a few of the other achievements that SCVO and its partners have put together over the course of the last 12 months from March 2021 to April 2022. And I hope this gives you just a flavour of the breadth and depth that the organisation has had over the last 12 months. So our information services have handled just under 1,000 individual direct queries. We launched our new refreshed governance checkup tool, and you can see on the slide that's before you now, it's been completed by over 70 organisations, including ourselves, I'm pleased to say. SCVO went through the process, and it was a very helpful process for us to go through as a board. We supported also over 500 organisations with our HR inquiries. As you'll see on the next slide, we ran 72 training courses, totaling over 4,000 hours of learning and development, and we delivered 41 online webinars, one of which we're doing today, I guess, to some extent, to an audience of nearly 3,000 people. So quite a significant reach. And we worked with Highlands Council and the Highlands TSI, the Third Sector Interface, to secure funding from the UK Government's Community Renewal Fund to create 30 6-month voluntary sector work placements in the Highlands for 16 to 29-year-olds and people aged over 50. A recruitment website, Good Moves, which many of you will be familiar with, advertised just short of 7,000 jobs, 50% more than in the previous year. So despite everything, a really quite significant increase in the traffic that was going through the Good Moves website. We processed, as you can see on the slide that's in front of you now, 81,000 pay slips, a not insignificant number of payroll mechanisms there, for 452 organisations, so just shy of 500 organisations and their employees. And that totals just short of £90 million worth of salaries, including dealing with furlough claims that were still ongoing through the year that we're talking about. And we managed the delivery of over £16 million in funding through our purpose-built fund management system. So a huge array of financial activity and digital activity there. And again, several of you will have been present either physically or online. The Scottish Charity Awards this year in 2021 attracted, I think, a record 258 applications, a record 12,000 public votes, and as well as the people that were actually at the SECC and partner organisations over in Glasgow for the physical award. There were 3,000 viewers who watched the award online as well. So it was a very, very successful evening. I'm very grateful to the staff who managed that process, because I know they had to do it for the first time ever in conjunction with the gathering happening at the same time. Third Force News, hopefully many of you, if not all of you on the call, will be avid readers of the magazine, has had nearly 1 million visits to the website this year, really quite remarkable. And the short film that we produced showcasing some of the amazing contributions of voluntary organisations throughout the pandemic was viewed over 8,000 times, and it was shortlisted for the 2022 UK Charity Film Awards. So I hope, as those slides have just outlined, a massive breadth and depth of activity that SCVO and our partners have been involved in the last 12 months. And there's no doubt, though, as Maureen alluded to in her opening comments, 2021-22 hasn't been without its challenges. And I was particularly disappointed. I have to flag up one disappointment and challenge, was by the loss of the national funding for the Community Jobs Scotland programme. Disappointing as that was, I was really delighted to see that before the funding ended at a national level, we were able to announce that we secured helped over 10,000 10,367 to be precise, as you can see on the slide in front of you now, disadvantaged young people who benefited from a CJS Community Jobs Scotland job over the last decade of the programme. And unfortunately, though, we are still unclear about exactly what will replace CJS at a local level, but we continue to have a dialogue with the government about that. So I'm delighted that everybody's been with us this afternoon. As I've said, I hope those slides at the back end of the presentation do give you a flavour of the breadth and depth of what we've been doing. I'm going to ask Anna in a second to take over, and she'll set out just what we're working on currently, and maybe have a bit of a look forward to the next year, 2022-2023. But before I do that, I'd just like to say a brief but really heartfelt thank you to 3 people in particular, Manish Joshi, Pauline Lunn and James Adams, who are all board members who are stepping down as trustees. They've all made a massive contribution over the last 3 very challenging years, and I want to say a really heartfelt thanks to Manish, Pauline and James for all of their input. But most importantly of all, I want to thank the staff at SCVO and to all of you, our members, for all of your ongoing support and participation throughout the year. And thanks very much for listening, and I'll hand you back briefly to Maureen.
Well, thank you very much, Andrew, and thank you for taking the opportunity to remind us just how much has happened in the last year. So, as you mentioned, we're going to hand over to Anna now.
Good evening, everybody. It's my job to have a look forward, which is actually at the current year. So I'm going to have a look at that now. And thank you to Andrew for setting out all our achievements and challenges that we had in the previous year. As Andrew said, we're in the final year of our current strategic plan, and we are shortly to launch a new 5-year plan at the start of the year. And it will look and feel a bit different, but our ambition to be the best we can be for the voluntary sector in Scotland still stands. As Andrew and Maureen have said, the sector is in a state of turmoil just now, with the running cost crisis hitting all of us, and the cost of living crisis impacting on the people and communities our organisations serve, as well as on staff and volunteers. And that's exacerbated existing problems, probably even more than the pandemic did. That makes what we do at SCVO even more important across all of our functions. So providing excellent, relevant, affordable services that help charities and community organisations and social enterprises to go about their daily business is fundamental to our office. We're working hard to support good governance and management in the sector. Well-run organisations are more resilient and more able to respond to the ever-changing external environment. Our information services, IT, HR and payroll services and Good Moves are all seeing increasing demand, as Andrew said, and that continues, and getting great feedback. Our events, webinars and training are really popular, and we're constantly evolving all of them to meet current needs and to reflect the feedback that we get. Everything that you tell us helps us to improve what we do, and we like hearing from you, warts and all. This year, the gathering and the charity awards were back in person for 2022, which is very exciting. As Maureen and Andrew said, there was a great buzz at both events, and we did try combining them for the first time. And although it worked fine, we've decided it would be better to go back to having them at different times of the year, much to the relief of the event team. So hot off the press, the 2023 Charity Awards will be on the 23rd of June, and the gathering will be on the 7th and 8th of November, both in Edinburgh. So I guess funding will always be the biggest issue facing the sector, whatever the size of your organisation, wherever you're located, whatever you do. Our Funding Scotland portal is still the best source of up-to-date information and what funding is out there and how to access it. And as Andrew mentioned, we have our own fund management service that's going from strength to strength. The funding environment is, of course, a key focus for our policy and influencing work, and we're finally seeing some traction on our messaging about the importance of multi-year funding, annual uplifts and core funding. We've yet to see whether that will result in any meaningful action, of course, but there are some pockets of hope. Of course, not all funding for voluntary organisations comes from the public sector, from grants or contracts. Fundraising and donations are hugely important, and the impact of rising costs on the public's ability to donate will be significant. And we will see an impact on people's capacity to volunteer. We're seeing some independent funders taking action to better support organisations that they fund, and I hope that more will be following suit. And I'm sure you'll have seen the work that we've been doing using hashtag running cost crisis, highlighting the impact of the economic environment on the sector. Third Force News recently devoted an entire issue of the magazine to it and is running stories on a daily basis. The latest wave of, I'm just trying to remember it's been published. I think the latest wave of third sector tracker research has just been published yesterday. If it's not, it's coming very, very soon. And that gives you a much more in-depth appreciation of what's happening based on pretty robust research. Supporting the sector as an employer is a priority for us this year. And that is about services like Good Moves, payroll and HR that I've already mentioned, but it's also about raising awareness of fair work principles, working with Scottish Government so that they better understand the challenges our sector faces in implementing a fair work approach. There's been an announcement today on fair work and grant funding, and we're looking at the implications of that right now. We all want to be good employers to offer our staff good paying conditions and secure jobs. That's hugely influenced by the funding environment and how procurement works and affordability. We're also working now to increase the visibility of the impact of the sector and its contribution to Scottish society and to the economy. And this year, that also includes influencing the UK's agenda, particularly around levelling up and the various funds that the UK government are putting in place to replace European funding. As you might imagine, that's been quite tricky, as ministers have been a bit of a revolving door, but we persevere. And our sector benefited from millions of pounds from Europe, and that comes to a hard stop in the next 12 months. The UK government has made commitments to replace it, but obviously not in the same format, and actually at the moment it does seem to be a bit less onerous in terms of reporting arrangements. But the financial situation also makes that very vulnerable to change, with the Chancellor is balancing competing priorities, and it's very vulnerable when it filters down to the local level with councils and city growth deals reviewing their own priorities. And the UK government has again today, why do they announce things when I prepare facts and figures? Anyway, they've today signed off the first £2.6 billion of the UK shared prosperity fund. So again, we'll have to analyse exactly what that looks like. And as Andrew mentioned, a lot of what we do is in partnership with others in the sector, like the TSIs and other intermediary organisations, as well as with funders and various tiers of government. For example, we've been working really closely with the TSI network on levelling up and with the social enterprise bodies on environmental issues. Our work on digital inclusion and digital capacity in the sector is well established and does continue to improve and expand. So inside SCVO, I mentioned that we've been refreshing our strategic plan. We've also been looking at our financial sustainability. Like most charities, our financial situation is fragile and it can fluctuate significantly depending on what's going on around us. We need to generate more income, but staying true to our values and charitable objectives. And we want to do our bit to address the climate and nature crises. We're more environmentally conscious in our work, with challenges I'm sure that some of you will relate to around historic and old-fashioned buildings. As well as looking at our own carbon footprint, we've been delivering climate literacy training in partnership with Keep Scotland Beautiful, and we're looking at tools and resources to help our members and the wider sector. We know there's lots of great stuff happening and we would like to share good examples. And we're also focusing on our approach to equality, diversity and inclusion, with a focus at the moment on becoming an anti-racist organisation. There's been so much learning in that, and we're determined to embed that learning in everything that we do. So finally, I would like to add my thanks to our trustees for all their support, particularly Pauline, Manish and James, whose terms have come to an end, and I'm looking forward to welcoming our new trustees soon to be revealed. But also to say thank you to all of you for being part of our SCVO community. Thank you.
Thank you, Anna, and again for just reminding us just about the depth and breadth of everything that's being done, and also for the heads up about the new dates for the awards and the gathering next year. So moving on, we've got item 4, which is the Treasurer's report. And before I invite Fiona Gillespie to share the financial report from last year, I'd just like to say that there'll be an opportunity later to ask questions of any of the speakers. But if there is a question that you have for Fiona, then can you please post that in the Q&A. Fiona?
Thank you, Maureen. I'm going to put a question from Tim as well, who's sitting to my left. He will take the difficult questions. I might answer the easy ones. Afternoon, everybody. As ever, our full accounts for the financial year ending March 2022 can be found on the website. And also worth noting, our new auditors, Shane and Tate, have given a clean bill of health for that financial year's report. The accounts are always fairly complex, thanks to various adjustments in accounting methodology when recording reserves in particular. So please do read the details in the accounts if that's of interest to get the full picture. Just some headline numbers. Our restricted reserves stand at £4.8 million at the end of the financial year, with £3.5 million of that being free reserves. And you can think of that as our safety net. And that level is pretty much where we target them to be, which is around 6 months of operating expenses. Restricted reserves are much higher, clearly, and they're related to specific projects. They stood almost at £19 million at the end of the year. However, around 14 million of that is related to the Connecting Scotland programme, And if you do turn to the accounts and look at the details, note 13 is where you'll find exactly how that £18.7 million is made up with the various projects which were ongoing. The Connecting Scotland programme also impacts the operational aspects of the accounts. Our overall deficit was recorded at £12.7 million, which seems an exceptionally large number. However, £15 million was income from Connecting Scotland, which was received in 2021, but spent in 21-22. So effectively that amount moved from the reserves into the operational portion of the accounting methodology. The cash balance, as you can see, looks very healthy at £23 million, but again, a large portion of that is aligned to future spending on various projects, and therefore you will see adjustments in future years, but we'll show that coming through. In terms of operational aspects, it has been a very challenging year, as Anna alluded to just a few moments ago. Our expectations for the year were to be running at a fairly modest loss, but actually that managed to improve as the year went on, and we ended up in a modest surplus. Particularly pleasing was growth in membership, and Andrew's already given some figures on that. And not only was that important in terms of the support to the sector, but it was generating a little more income than we had forecast. And a year that we've just had, any little extra that we could get was very welcomed. Our property portfolio, however, has been less pleasing. The ongoing adjustment to working practices has proven a real challenge for most organisations, not just SCVO, but our tenants also. And that move into a hybrid working pattern, and just trying to see where that settles and how that changed over the year was a challenge for all, to be honest. So all in all, with a small surplus for the year, we managed to not have to dip into reserves, so really focus on keeping that financial sustainability. The external challenge has continued into this year, with the added pressure from the cost of living crisis, putting notable pressure on what were already tight budgets. And again, SCVO are not immune. Everyone on the call will have a similar experience, I suspect. But the management team and the board are working very hard together to manage our finances sensibly and to ensure we are sustainable to support the sector over the longer term. So if anybody would like to read the accounts, they're there in much detail. If that's what you enjoyed today, and please take a look. But otherwise, we'll have some questions.
Right. And
if you would like
I know that Tim Henshaw, SCVO's Director of Strategic Resources, has been keeping an eye on the Q&A. Is there anything?
No questions. Maybe later though.
Maybe okay, thank you very much then, Fiona. So moving on the agenda is item 5, and it's the appointment of auditors. And the item is to appoint new auditors and to authorise the board to determine their remuneration. And I can confirm that the result of the voting is that Jane and Tate have been confirmed as SCVO's auditors for 2022 to 2023, and the board has been authorised to determine their remuneration. Our next item is the appointment of trustees. I'm delighted to report that this year we had a record number of nominations, with an outstanding 11 candidates put forward to take up 3 places on the board. The candidates are Barry Sillars, Chairperson, Foundation Scotland; Dave Shear, Scottish National Development Officer, Scottish Community Safety Network; Declan Harrigan, CEO Smile; Gillian Reid McKee, Assistant Director, Operations Shelter Scotland; James Adams, Director, RNIB Scotland; Kim Atkinson, CEO, Scottish Sports Association; Leslie Ross, Deputy CEO, Head of Partnership, Glasgow Council of Alcohol; Maya Gigiberia, Director, Georgian Cultural Centre in Scotland; the Reverend Canon Dr. Marion Chatterley, Vice Provost, St Mary's Cathedral; Emma Connor, Fundraising Manager, Cancer Support Scotland; and Chuks Ododo, Board Member, Datakirk. And again, I think if you wanted a sense of the diversity and range of SCVO's membership, I think that illustrates it. So many thanks to all of you who stood for election and to everyone who voted. I can now announce that the successful candidates are Barry Sillars, Chairperson Foundation Scotland, Gillian Reid-McKee, Assistant Director Operations Shelter Scotland, and Kim Atkinson, CEO Scottish Sports Association. That's largely the end of the formal business, apart from a session where we can take some questions. It says from the floor, but it's really from your own offices throughout the length and breadth of Scotland. So if you have any questions, please feel free to post them in the Q&A, and you can upvote any questions that are there by liking them. Everyone that you've heard speak today is here: Andrew, Anna, Fiona, as well as Tim. So, Tim, is there anything coming in?
Nothing yet.
Nothing yet. Well, in the absence of that, unless there's anything anybody else wants to say, I think I'd just like to say, once again, I think it's hard to be at this event without really being moved by what we hear about the range, breadth, depth, the work that's done by members and the way that we're able to support them through SCVO. I'd like to thank everyone involved in organising and planning this year's AGM, because I think when things appear effortless, that's because there's a lot of effort that's been put into making them that way. I think, and also all the staff at SCVO for all that they've done during the last year. Again, as we've heard, a particularly busy and challenging one. And I think from me, a special thank you to all members who have joined us. I think thank you really for making time in what's busy days in a hectic time of year to be here. And I think we appreciate your membership, we appreciate your support. I think all I would say in closing is best wishes to everybody for the coming holidays and for 2023, which is coming on us faster. Oh, we've got a point. We've actually got a question. Is that a question?
Thanks for me. I think it's for me.
Oh, it's been answer it.
The question is, SCVO seems to have a lot of unrestricted reserves. Do you have any plans to spend these? The answer is no. We have unrestricted reserves as a safety net. They're calculated on a methodology basis to cover liabilities, restructuring, and other corporate one-off needs to ensure SCVO is a sustainable organisation. We're at the 6 months target that SCVO needs to be. If reserves went above that, then obviously we wouldn't want to hold reserves above that optimal target. At the moment, we're where we need to be with reserves. Restricted reserves is also a similar type question, but very different in that we hold those monies in restricted reserves for spending on specific projects, and they will, on the other hand, get spent.
Right. So thank you to whoever asked that question, and thank you, Tim, for the response. If there are no more questions, I'm not seeing anything else or comments that you want to draw attention to. In that case, then, can I wish you the best for the holidays, the 2023, which, as I was saying, is fast approaching. Goodbye from me from now, and I can declare this AGM officially closed. Thank you.
Next morning.
Thank you.